My name is Kathy Winters. I'm from Olathe, Johnson County, Kansas. This happened in 2006. My daughter has 5 children, my grandchildren, 3 boys, 2 girls. She had surgery on her knees. She'd been a truck driver, and the couplers had come back and squashed her knees. She had surgery on both knees. In surgery, her heart stopped on the table. They used the paddles to bring her heart back, and her teeth clenched the breathing tube, and it broke her teeth. And then she was taking pain medications afterwards. Then one of the fathers of one of her children wanted custody of his daughter and a child that was not his. He turned her in for being addicted to drugs. He said later he didn't know that she had had an operation, but yet he wouldn't recant his complaint against her. So the caseworker said that she looked and she talked like she was on drugs. She had a doctor's note saying that he knew what they were prescription drugs that she was taking. They didn't care. It didn't matter. They notified me, told me I could have the youngest 3 children, 2 little boys and a girl. And the 2 older ones would go with this father that made the complaint. They also, I was told by a supervisor of SRS that they helped him financially. I assume and I feel it was a reward for him turning her in. They helped him financially. So then they promised me the 3 younger kids, and I was all set up. I had diapers, I had everything set up. But when we went into the courtroom afterwards, the KVC is a private contractor here in Kansas. They are contracted through SRS, and basically I feel they do the dirty work for SRS. They told me that my grandchildren would go into foster homes. The 2 youngest ones went into 2 different foster homes. Actually, all 5 kids went into 4 different homes, even though I could have taken 3 of them in my home. And I was promised that until they made the decision. The 2 youngest little boys was 1.5 and 2.5. They were like twins. They were so close. They'd never been away from their family, never been apart. And I told them that it was going to be hard on the little boys to be apart and to be with strangers. They'd never had a babysitter that wasn't family before. And they also gave the girl to a father who was on probation for domestic violence. And they didn't even check him out or anything. And so, anyway, the next morning, after they took the children and put the 2 younger boys in foster care, they called me and said, yes, the foster parents have no clothes, have no diapers, have no shoes, have no coats for these kids. Will you bring all these items to KVC headquarters so that they can give them to the foster parents, even though I was set up for it? They checked me out. I'm part Cherokee. They never notified the Cherokee Nation about them removing the children. They typically take these children before a holiday, over a 3-day weekend, or over on a weekend, because that way the 72 hours that they're required to do something, they only have 72 hours to do it, does not count when it comes to holidays or weekends. My grandchildren were taken the day after Christmas on December 26, 2006. I fought and fought. They were in that foster home, and every time we would see them on our supervised visits, Wyatt had, one grandson had a underdeveloped trachea, and my daughter is a nurse. The mother of the children is a nurse. We tried to tell the KVC caseworker that they were overdosing the little boy, and that he was it's more dangerous actually to overdose him than underdose him. And we kept telling the caseworker, she didn't care. It took me a week to get them, the 2 little boys, out of foster home. When I did pick them up, one of them I got to pick up at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And whenever I got him, he stopped breathing in the car. I took him to the emergency room. The nurse there told me that I saved his life, that he had stopped breathing, that they had overdosed him. So they treated him. I took him home. And then the next morning I picked up the other little boy. They were with me for 16 months. Every report was positive about them, that I was taking care of them, that I loved them, that the boys were happy. I had them for 16 months, and every report was positive. Then whenever, during the case, my daughter, her husband, my daughter's husband, abused her 4 times. He was convicted. He was arrested and convicted 4 times of domestic violence. He was on probation the first time when he beat her up the second time. They put him on probation again, and then they took him off early and gave him his son. But yet my daughter had no criminal record, and they said that she was addicted to drugs. In 2.5 years during the Sink case, the child in need of care case, they only did 1 drug test. She passed that test, even though she offered to do drug tests anytime they wanted to. They did 1 drug test in 2.5 years. Then they did psych evaluations on me, my daughter's husband, the father of 1 little boy, and they did it on my daughter. The psychiatrist who did the test stated that the father who beat up my daughter and was convicted of domestic violence had a mental disability, that he could not take care of that little boy on his own. But he said, on the other hand, that the mother, my daughter, did have the ability to take care of that child on her own. And see, my daughter graduated just a couple of months before her surgery with a 3.85 average from nursing school. She loved her kids. She adored her kids. But they gave the little boy to the father. The father testified under oath that the KVC caseworker made a deal with him, that if he would get evidence against his wife, my daughter, that they would give him his son. He testified under oath that under a protection from abuse order, he broke into my daughter's apartment, took dog feces from the bathroom and spread it all over the carpet, took pictures of it, and gave it to the KVC worker. He testified that he made a deal with the KVC worker to get his son. During the whole case in 2.5 years, my daughter was told that if she left her husband, who was abusing her all during the 2.5 years of this case, if she left him, she would lose her children. She finally left her children, or she finally left her husband, who was abusing her, and she lost her kids, and he got his son. They used the fact that if let me start off again. The reason that the judge gave for, let me start off again, I'm sorry. The reason the judge gave for severing her rights to the 2 youngest children, the younger ones, who were basically adoptable ages, was because that she was a victim. The mother was a victim of domestic violence. It was in the paperwork. And that because she was addicted to drugs. But they only did 1 drug test in 2.5 years, and she passed it. Then her lawyer called her one time to tell her exactly why the judge was severing her rights. And one statement he made was that the judge said in her paperwork that another reason that she was severing my daughter's rights was because KVC would lose their federal funding if she didn't. The judge did not sever her rights. And when we met with her lawyer next time, the lawyer said, oh, that wasn't your case. It was someone else's case. So, okay, I was told for something that I had no participation in, that they were removing the boys from me as soon as they decided to sever my daughter's rights. This is before the hearing to sever my daughter's rights. They used a situation that happened. I wasn't even there. It was a KVC authorized babysitter. I wasn't even there. In court, to get those boys out of my house after 16 months with me, and I wanted to adopt them, I told the caseworker, if you're going to sever my daughter's rights, I want to adopt those children. She said, you can't because of your disability and your age. I was 57 at the time, and I had a disability through the police department of 14 years, where I worked for 14 years. Then she told me that, and I got the date for it when she told me that outside the courtroom. And then she told my attorney that they were not going to allow me to adopt the boys because of my age and disability. They told, and also the GAL, the guardian ad litem, said the same thing.